Hello, good morning. My name is Frances White. I'm a senior developer in test at EMIS Health, and the somewhat cheesy title of my talk is Manual to Technical One Tester's Journey. And as the title suggests, I'm doing this because you hear so much about people becoming technical testers, and by technical tester I mean somebody that can program. And you never hear about how they made that leap and how they kind of made that transition. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, because yeah, this isn't working, so you just hit enter or something. So I started software testing 6 years ago at Skipton Building Society as a temporary tester. I have no background in IT whatsoever. I did sociology at university because it was what I was good at. And absolutely no programming experience at all. In fact, when I started software testing, the last time I'd done any programming was on something called Turtle on an RM Nimbus in the 1990s, I don't know if anyone remembers that. I came to, after Skipton, I came to EMIS, and I started as, just doing manual testing. And a couple of years down the line, EMIS started doing a mentoring program, and that was in C# because EMIS is a .NET and SQL house. And that was kind of where I sort of started. But the mentoring program, for various reasons, didn't last very long. But it gave me a real taste for learning to code, and that's just, I'm just going to tell you how I did it. Obviously, there are many, many programming languages out there. There are many, many ways of learning to program, but this is just how I did it. And hopefully, there are people in this room that don't have an IT degree, and they're like, how do I get into the technical testing side? I'd really like to code. I've seen the code that devs write. Looks really interesting. So how do I kind of get my foot in the door? So this is how I did it. Why? Yeah. So on the left-hand side is how I feel about manual regression testing. I started working my way through regression testing packs that were 260 pages of A4, and each page had about 30 steps. So, and we were doing this every 8 weeks. So as you can imagine, it's very soul-destroying. Anyone that's done regression testing like that over and over on the same product for months on end. On the right, you can see that lady's happy, she's engaged, is what she's doing. And that's how I felt when I was doing the mentoring, when I was sitting in the lessons that Richie and other people gave. And I was like, this is really interesting. This is problem solving. I love doing that. I love like crossword puzzles and Sudokus. Don't know if anyone does the times Sudoku? No, just me, great, cool. So that was why. Next slide. And this is what I started with, which is a course called Csharp Fundamentals for Absolute Beginners. And it's available on Microsoft Virtual Academy and on YouTube. And it's by this guy, Bob Tabor. He has his own website called learnvisualstudio.net. This course is just great. It's just a fantastic introduction. It assumes no prior knowledge at all. And it's just like creating your first program. So you do the classic kind of hello world thing. And then you start to create projects. What's the difference between a project and a solution? What are the different data types? What's an int? What's a string? And then you have the sort of decision, the logic, so the if statements, the iterations, while loops, that kind of thing. Then you get to accessibility, public, private, protected, all that stuff, and exception handling. So it gives you, basically, this gives you a really, really good grounding in the basics. Next slide. So that was great, and that gave me a good intro. So I now felt I could kind of open up Visual Studio, do a sort of basic console program, a little calculator, something like that. But you want to go a bit further, and that's when by chance one of my colleagues said, "Oh, I've got a copy of this Head First C# book. Do you want to give that a go?" And I went, "Oh, okay, fine. Give this a go." A little bit nervous actually. You know, what if I find it and I get in and I can't do the exercises? And this is just a fantastic book because, and you're going to go to meet Francis. There's billions, literally billions of different courses and books and videos. Why this one? Because it's on Amazon and it's quite pricey. It's 25 quid. You know what? That's quite a lot of beer. So, yeah, and that would be a totally reasonable thing to ask. So I'm going to tell you why this book, and it's because I don't know if anyone come across the Head First series at all. Yeah, a few people. It's brilliant because it's written with something called metacognition in mind, and metacognition sounds fancy, but all it is thinking about thinking. So our brains absorb things. Anyone ever been at uni and had a horrible dry textbook to read with chunks and chunks of text, and you just look at it and your heart sinks and you just think, oh God, not again. This is the opposite of that. It's almost like a comic. It has loads and loads of pretty, so it explains things in what's called a brain-friendly way. So humans are very visual, everybody knows that. That's why I've got a PowerPoint presentation and I'm not just talking to you. There's loads and loads of pictures and things. Think, cool, pictures is good, fine. But it also, your brain absorbs things more if you have an emotional reaction to what you are looking at or trying to read. So this is written with lots of very, very bad humour in it. But it doesn't matter that it's bad, because you're still, even if you're groaning, you're still having an emotional reaction. So that's another reason why that's good. It's written in a very conversational, personal style. It isn't dry academic English. It's just, it is written in the way that you would almost speak. And the fourth reason it's good, and no, I'm not being paid to advertise this, by the way, just in case anyone's wondering, I wish I was, is that there are tons of exercises. And it's not just the same kind of exercise over and over. Obviously, you're writing software, you're writing applications in it, but there's also things like crossword puzzles. Yes. Like little fill in, just little things where you go, oh, where does this statement go in this while loop and stuff. And then there are debates in the book about fireside chats between two people, debating about polymorphism and inheritance and the best way to declare something and things like that. So that's why that book is worth every penny of that 25 quid. You get to write Space Invaders at the end. What isn't to like, to be honest? And you get to write also one of those like little, I don't know if anyone played these in the 90s. Sorry, I'm a child of the 90s, it's kind of obvious. Those little games, really adventure games where you're like moving around a room and you're like a ghost or something, and you have to eat stuff, kind of like Pac-Man with slightly better graphics, but not much. You get to write one of them as well. So for me, this was a great nostalgia trip. And finally, so after I completed that, I say I completed it, I didn't actually finish it, which is really bad. But I got sort of halfway through the last third, so maybe 3/4. So what do you do? Let's assume you've gone through that book, fine, completed that, done all the exercises. So you've done a bit of inheritance, you've done events. You're fairly confident with writing a good little application. You can talk to databases now, stuff like that. How do you take that further? Write code that's useful. I cannot emphasize this enough. If you are doing mentoring on work time, they will want to see some kind of result. Like, okay, so maybe now in your team, you can write unit tests. for the devs. And that's maybe a slightly controversial thing to do, but it'll mean that you finish your sprint a lot quicker, finish your work a lot quicker. Management love shit getting done fast. So that, just write something useful. I wrote end-to-end tests for API, whatever is useful. If you don't know what's useful, ask. Because I guarantee either in your team or in another team, someone will want a tester that can code. They are like gold dust. Picture on the right, we've just had a talk about it, mentoring. Get yourself a mentor. Get yourself somebody who enjoys teaching, enjoys mentoring. And if you've got senior devs, senior testers in your company, the chances are they're going to have mentoring as one of their objectives. It looks good for them as well. Get someone who's friendly, enjoys it, you can understand them, you're on their wavelength. Does anyone have any questions? Yes?
If the goal of that book was to give you a head start, is it a good thing that you didn't finish it?
Yeah, the last thing was the Space Invaders, and that was where it was a lot of events, as you can imagine, with something like that. And I just kind of, I think I just got like, I think by that point I just felt I'd got what I needed out of the book to write unit tests for my team and to write end-to-end tests for my team. So yeah, maybe, I don't know. I've never finished it, so I guess I'll never know. Any more for any more? Go.
Just quickly, you said that you wanted to write something useful.
Yes.
When you sort of finished all your mentoring stuff and did all your books and everything. How daunting and how big of a task was that? Did you find? How did you find it when you needed to start writing that code?
Yeah, it was. It's fear of failure was a big problem for me. And I think it is for anyone that's learning anything new. You know what, you're sticking your head above the parapet. You're going out your comfort zone. People won't think any the less of you for writing bad code to begin with. They know you're a beginner. They know you've never done this before. They will respect you for trying. They will respect you for trying to up your skills and trying to be a better tester or a more specialised tester, whatever. They will respect you for it. I've never, ever had anybody, I mean, they have rapped me over the knuckles for bad code, but only when I've done it, when I've done the same bad thing more than once. If you learn, get your stuff code reviewed, learn from your mistakes, no one can fault you because you're doing something that's really, really cool. Any more questions? No? Thank you very much.